I finally did it. I'm officially the owner of a brand new Xbox, and the reason that I bought it is for one very simple reason. Xbox Game Pass. As right now, not only is it budget friendly, it's also fantastic for cozy gamers. So today I'm going to do a roundup of the best cozy games on Xbox Game Pass that you can play right now. But don't fear if you don't have an Xbox or even a PC that can play games. Many of these games are on systems like the Nintendo Switch, so you can just add these to your probably ever-growing wish list. But before I go into my hand-picked list, make sure you subscribe to the channel down below as we're trying to hit 100k by the end of 2023, and I would love your help. We're going to be going through these games pretty fast as there's a lot to cover, so buckle on up. First up, we have a personal favorite of mine, and that's Little Witch in the Woods. This may only be in early access right now, but I have already fallen in love with this beautiful witchy game, as it's just packed with so much character. You play as the main character Ellie, who is an apprentice witch on her way to finish her apprenticeship when her train breaks down in what you thought was the middle of nowhere. And naturally, instead of waiting in the train for it to be fixed, she decides to go off and explore. And she falls asleep in a rundown witch's house and winds up sleeping in and missing her train completely. And this is where the game really begins. So Ellie decides instead of trying to make it to her school, she's just gonna make this rundown witch's hut her new home. Throughout the game, not only do you help Ellie to finish her apprenticeship with the help of her incredibly witty hat, she also decides to befriend and help those in the neighboring town. The art style and the characters are honestly perfect and everything I'm looking for in a cozy game. I'm only about 5 or so hours in at the moment, but I already adore the story so much. And your day-to-day actions in the game involve obviously a lot of potion brewing, and to brew these potions, you need to go out and gather all of the local resources. And as you progress through the story and unlock new areas for the maps, you also unlock new creatures, new resources that also allow you to brew even more useful potions. There's also a ton of secrets to find and explore throughout the entire map as well, so there really is plenty to do. The full release of Little Witch in the Woods is one of my most anticipated games in 2023, but thankfully you can play early access to tide you over till then. Next up is another personal favorite, and that's House Flipper. Because of how chill and laid back the gameplay is, this is fast becoming one of my most played games every single evening. And if you love the game as much as I do, you might not know that there's actually a second one coming very soon. The game's premise is pretty simple. You go to your PC and pick a job to do. These tasks are anything from just cleaning up the mess that people left in the house, to redecorating rooms with new paint, new tiles, new flooring, and even having to knock down and put up brand new walls. And as you progress through the jobs, you'll learn skill points that you can then spend to make each of the tasks easier and quicker, and also earn you some money. Now, when you carry out jobs for other people, you are restricted to the brief. But one cool thing is that you can use the money that you've earned from doing these jobs to buy your very own house that you can do up and decorate however you want to. I love the variation in all the different tasks that you can do, and it's just such a relaxing experience. I love it to pieces, and it's just a great game to play while you're also watching one of your favorite TV series. Then we have Slime Rancher 2. And yes, I know many of you have been telling me to talk about the Slime Rancher games, but the only reason I have never mentioned Slime Rancher 2 is because we've probably got a very, very long time before it comes to the Switch. And I didn't really want to show you all this incredible game and then break your hearts with the fact that you can't actually play it yet. But this is an Xbox video, so I can do it. This is basically a farming sim, but the animals are slimes, and the fruit and veg you grow are just to feed the slimes. The way you make money and the whole ecosystem in the game is based around feeding the slimes, and when you do, they poop out something called a plort, which are these little crystal-looking things that you can then sell for money. They call it the plort market, and it's basically like stocks where the prices change each and every day. I don't take it that seriously, so I just sell my resources whenever I get them. But you can take that into account if you want to. You spend a lot of the game exploring, and the further away you get from your house, the more wild and different type of slimes you'll encounter. Each slime is also incredibly unique. Not only are they very picky when it comes to which foods they eat, some of them are also much harder to handle than others. Like, some of the slimes are more violent and can break through the enclosure walls if you don't pay for reinforcements. Other types of slimes can only be kept in the dark, so you have to wait to unlock new areas in order to house them. And if that's not enough, you can also breed the slimes together to give the perfect mix of properties, making them much easier to handle. Not only is the game a lot of fun to play, it is also stunning. And although there is an overarching story, I basically just spend all my time exploring and getting wildly excited whenever I find a brand new species of slime that I haven't got on my farm yet. Also, I just love how hangry the slimes get if you don't feed them. They're just so cute to look at. Then we have a game I have far too many hours in, and that's City Skylines. But just be warned if you're looking at getting into it, the traffic system is so bad, but kind of in a hilarious way. You basically get to build an entire city from scratch. You're given a plot of land, and from that, it's up to you to place the roads, designate zones for housing, industrial zones, and even shopping areas. You can literally micromanage everything. You place schools, you're in charge of the police and the fire department. You're also in charge of making sure everyone gets electricity and clean water every single day. But the kind of cool part is it doesn't feel overwhelming because the game introduces you to each of these areas you can micromanage bit by bit. But if you play City Skylines the way I do, your towns will be a mess, but you'll still be having a great time. I'd get to the point where literally a part of my city was always burning. The children didn't get to go to school. People were stuck in traffic jams for days, and the water system was continuously contaminated. But that's genuinely part of the fun. It's chaos. You can make some absolutely incredible builds and incredible cities, and you're guaranteed to have hours of fun. I will say I'm much more of a fan of the PC controls over the Xbox controller controls, but if all you've got is an Xbox, you're still gonna have a great time. Then we have a cozy gaming staple, and that's Coffee Talk. In Coffee Talk, you work behind the bar as a barista in an alternate version of Seattle. And the game is pretty simple. You make drinks and you listen to your fantasy customers' stories all about their lives, and from that you get to learn just a little bit about the world they live in. But if you think all you do is serve coffee, then oh boy are you wrong, as you can combine a series of different ingredients to influence their hearts with a single cuppa and potentially change their lives. You can also draw latte art with every single brew you make and just fully immerse yourself with the cozy vibes of hanging out in a coffee shop. The atmosphere this game gives with its lo-fi music is absolutely incredible, and if this is something that interests you, I think it's only a month or so until the second one comes out, and earlier this week they even announced that Coffee Talk 2 will also be available on Xbox Game Pass. Then we have another staple, which is Unpacking, and also another favorite of mine. This isn't just a satisfying sorting game that you might think it is at first glance. Unpacking is a beautiful story told by unpacking someone's belongings. And despite having no dialogue in it whatsoever, you get to learn all about this person and their entire life. And the amount of story woven into a game where all you do is unpack someone else's belongings is incredible. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil the story, but if you haven't checked it out yet, I can definitely say it's well worth your time. Then we have a Memoir Blue. Now this is a little different from every single game I've mentioned so far, as this is an interactive poem about a superstar athlete and the love between a mother and daughter. It combines 3D art alongside hand-drawn animation and brings memories to life. And the game is all about the main character reconnecting with her inner child. Then we have Beacon Pines. This is one of my absolute favorite indie games, but also favorite games of all time. I love it so much. I think it's so unique and such a fun experience. I cannot recommend it enough. Now, full disclosure, this is a bit of a darker take on a cozy game, but in this you play as both the narrator and the main character Luca as you investigate some strange happenings in the town of Beacon Pines that no one else seems to have noticed. But the really cool part of Beacon Pines is at some points, the narrator will stop talking and get you to fill in the missing words to the story with something called a token. And depending on which word you pick will cause a branch in the story. Now, many of the branches you'll go down in this game will end in disaster, but that doesn't mean they were a waste of time, as they often lead to you finding a new token that can change Lucas or his friend's fate at a previous branch that you've encountered. The story of Beacon Pines is absolutely gripping and fantastic. I used to play it in the evenings and found it unbelievably difficult to put the game down. I was gripped from beginning to end. And I absolutely loved the fact that you not only controlled the main character, but also were fully in control of the story at all points. As I said, one of my favorite games, and I definitely recommend it. Then we have Broken Age. I had to include at least one point-and-click game in my cozy games list, and I don't think you're ready for the story that is Broken Age. Now, this was first released in 2014, and I'm pretty sure that's the year I picked it up, and I still have vivid memories of the game's story to this day. And thanks to its hand-animated art, 9 years later, the game still stands up. If you've never heard of Broken Age, then one thing you do need to know is that the cast is absolutely star-studded. There's Elijah Wood and Jack Black, just to name a few of the voices who act in this game. Broken Age follows two teenagers in strangely similar situations, but drastically different worlds. And the story is so unbelievably creative that I genuinely don't want to give anything away about it, as that will just take from the true experience. Just be ready to open up a walkthrough every now and again. It's a very classic point-and-click game where you'll definitely get stuck at times. Either way, it is fantastic and I love it to pieces. Then we have Bugsnax. This is a ridiculous game in the best possible way and is guaranteed to give you a smile across your face. In this game, you venture to Snacktooth Island, which is home to the legendary half-bug, half-snack creatures named Bugsnax. You are invited to the island by an intrepid explorer, Elizabeth, but on arrival, you find her nowhere to be found, and in fact, the camp is an absolute mess. Elizabeth's followers are scattered across the island, both alone and hungry, and it's up to you to figure out where Elizabeth is, what Bugsnax are, and why Bugsnax taste so good. Because in Bugsnax, you are what you eat really truly has a meaning here. There are over 100 different species of Bugsnax to encounter and catch, along with a diverse island to go off and explore. Not only can you decorate your home, you can also dress up your favorite Bugsnax in a truly wacky game that is unlike anything you've played before. Then we have Disney Dreamlight Valley. Do I really need to say anything about this game that hasn't been said before? Now, there are a ton of characters already implemented in the game, but for those who don't know, in April, we're getting a brand new Lion King realm, so now might be a great time to pick it up if you've been thinking about it. One thing I do want to point out before you download the game, though, is that it now has microtransactions. So if you're planning on giving your console or your PC to a kid, just make sure you've taken the proper precautions to make sure they can't spend your hard-earned money. Next up is Dragon Quest Builders 2. This game is kind of similar to Minecraft, but it is also an RPG at the same time. And for this reason, I found it a lot easier to get into than I did when I first played Minecraft. In Minecraft, it kind of left you to learn everything by yourself, which can be a little bit daunting at first. But this kind of style of game where it mixes the Minecraft mechanics in with an RPG-like story/tutorial has made it so much easier for me to get into. The game does in fact have a story, and this sees you try and escape from the people who have outlawed building across the land. So it's up to you to escape and also encourage the people to start building again. Throughout the game, you'll also even encounter puzzles that you need to solve as well. And throughout the story, you'll meet NPCs who, after helping them, will ask to move into your base. Now, not only is there the story, but there's also a ton of side quests to do as well across each of the islands. And I kind of love this, as this gives me a purpose and a reason to explore. Sometimes in true sandbox games, I can just feel a little bit lost, and this kind of solves that problem for me. But don't worry, if you do love the building, once you've finished with the main story, you're free to go off and do whatever you want. Next up is Garden Story, and this is the cutest action-adventure game I have ever seen. You play as a grape and traverse the world inhabited by quirky fruit and veg. In Garden Story, you're appointed as the town's guardian, set to protect the fragmented town from something known as the Rot. Now, this is a little bit combat heavy compared to some of the games on this list, with big boss battles to encounter at the end of each part, but you're also a grape, which I think evens out the cozy score. Each day you will have new requests from townspeople in the game, and throughout the game you'll not only defend the town, but also build it back up again. I just love the entire aesthetic of the game. I think it's adorable and definitely one to try out. Then we have Gang Beasts, which I've included purely because it's one of my absolute favorite party games to play, as it's just so wacky. To win the game is pretty simple. You just need to be the last person alive. But your friends can not only knock you out, but also drag and throw you around. And considering the maps are also equally as wacky, there is so much chaos to be had. Then we have Lost in Random, where life is decided by a single roll of a dice. Ruled by a wicked queen, you roll a dice to decide which of the 6 realms you'll live out your life on. You follow the story of 2 twin sisters named Odd and Even, whose time has come to roll the dice. And after watching your twin roll, Even decides she doesn't want to be separated from her sister and goes on a mission to try and find her. If you love the likes of The Nightmare Before Christmas, Coraline, that kind of style of movie, this will be something you will love. And the cool thing about the world in which this game is based around, you get to see how far the Queen's dice roll affects beyond just the world in which the characters live on. The world building and storytelling is incredible, and it makes kind of the turn-based sort of battle system feel more than worthwhile. Then we have an absolute favorite of mine, and that's No Man's Sky. This is the most slept on and underrated cozy game in existence. And if you have a beastie PC or the Xbox Series X, this game looks absolutely phenomenal. Now, if you're looking at this game feeling overwhelmed, I just want to tell you straight away that this has similar settings to likes of Minecraft, where you can literally make it almost impossible to die, and no resources to gather whatsoever. So if you really want to, you can purely make this an exploration game. Now, if you remember a few years ago hearing that No Man's Sky was a total flop, then you are in fact right. At launch, it was one of the most negatively reviewed games in Steam history. But since then, they have worked so hard to make the game they promised become a reality. And right now, I think they have truly done that. There is so much to do, from exploring new solar systems with planets and moons where you can catalog new creatures and fauna, to doing a story that takes you through each of the in-game mechanics in a really nice way. You can even build a base and have your own farm. But the best part is, much like real life space, space never has an end. It's procedurally generated, meaning you will never find the edge of it. One thing I do adore as well is the fact that there are so many free updates. At the moment, they're doing it every 3 months or so. That brings so much more content to the game. So if you're looking for something on this list where you can easily dedicate 1,000+ hours to, No Man's Sky is the perfect game. Then it's time for another cozy game classic, and that's Power Washing Sim. There's really not a lot to say about the game. It kind of speaks for itself. You're armed with a power washer and asked to wash different things. Now, the thing I hated the most when I first started playing this game was actually why I ended up falling in love with it. And that's that there is no music in it whatsoever. At first, I thought it was kind of sad that there was no chill music like we see in House Flipper. But what I found out is either you can just enjoy the ASMR experience of the water noises, or you can play it while watching your favorite TV show without having to mute the game. And each level in the game is actually a good length, lasting at least an hour or so. And it's just so satisfying to play. If you finish a section and clean it completely, it makes this cute little ding sound, which is easily one of the most rewarding sounds ever. And the money you earn from doing jobs, you can then spend on upgrading your equipment for future tasks. And the thing I love the most is reading the wild and wacky text messages you get throughout the entire game. Then we have Stardew Valley. Like, come on, at this point, do I even need to say anything? Then we have No Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. I think also No Kuni 2 is coming to Xbox Game Pass very soon, but truly you can never go wrong with the No Kuni games. The music, the art style, and the storytelling are very reminiscent of the classic Studio Ghibli films, and the vibes are just immaculate. You play as Oliver as he adventures through the world in the hope of bringing his mother back after a tragic accident. It will see you travel across the world to tame familiars, take on enemies and challenges with the unique turn-based battle system. And it is such a great experience. I cannot recommend it enough. Then we have Eastward, and just bear in mind that this is definitely a game for adults, but this is a pixel art adventure game that is kind of reminiscent of old school Zelda. The story follows a guy and his adoptive daughter who travel through the world in a society on the brinks of collapse through a post-apocalyptic world. You see, a deadly toxic presence had flooded the land, destroying everything in its path and forcing those that did survive the initial aftermath underground. And you follow the pair as they escape the underground society and begin their journey above ground, helping those in need as you pass. Much of the land you traverse is similar to old school Zelda, using John's hack and slash fighting skills mixed with Sam's psychic powers to not only solve puzzles, but also fight enemies as you work your way eastward. And if the puzzles are not enough, there are plenty of mini games in the game to keep things fresh. The world and story are absolutely fantastic, and it's definitely more story driven than you might expect it to be. Next up is The Sims. Now, the base game of The Sims is already free, but you can get the Get to Work pack as well on Xbox Game Pass. Now, I will admit The Sims is not really a game franchise I like all that much. Hot take, I found the base game kind of boring, but I will say the Get to Work pack does add a bunch of new gameplay features, so if you're looking to just play it, it's probably worth it. The final game on my list is Ori. I love both of them to pieces. This is my only platformer on the list for one simple reason. I fell in love with Ori. The story is absolutely incredible, and the beginning of the first game makes me sob every single time. And despite being incredibly tricky, the controls are an absolute delight, meaning that I knew it was my fault if I failed. It's also kind of an open world type platformer where you can go anywhere you want on the map, but certain areas can only be reached once you've unlocked new skills after completing things like boss battles or puzzles throughout the map. Boss battles are both the most incredible and stressful part of the entire game, but the whole experience is made better by the graphics and also the incredible storytelling. But do be warned, this is definitely the hardest game on the entire list. That's everything from me today, and if you're still watching, make sure to comment the secret word of the day, which is cheese, because imagine people being really confused by it. And if you want to see everything we know about the brand new Harvest Moon game coming out this year, click this video here. I'll see you next time. Bye!